Alright, this is the first time I'm doing this. Animated movies this year of 2021 had many surprises, and quite a few movies that weren't the best. I won't be including any live-action hybrid movies, and I'm sticking to only fully animated films. Also, stuff like Diary of a Wimpy Kid and South Park Post-COVID won't be on here. I will be including everything I watched this year that was fully animated, and see how they stack up and compare to one another in terms of quality. Your opinions may differ from mine, and that is okay with me. Let's begin with the worst movie this year. You all saw this coming, I'm pretty sure. Studio Ghibli has made a lot of good movies like Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky, Howl's Moving Castle, When Marnie Was There, Ponyo, My Neighbor Totoro, etc. It's rare for them to make a bad movie. The only bad one they've made aside from Earwig is Tales from Earthsea. Other than that, Earwig and the Witch has proven to be the worst Studio Ghibli movie. The characters are unlikable, the story is confusing, the animation isn't the best, and there wasn't one likable thing about it. Well, that is, except for one thing. I did like the intro with the title card, but that has nothing to do with the story. This movie is Ghibli at its worst, and I hope no more bad movies come from them anytime soon. Ah yes, the sequel nobody really talked about when the trailer released, because nobody asked for this. The first movie was already pretty bad, but this makes the first movie look like a good movie. Of course, the first one was still bad, but this one makes it worse. It is completely unfaithful to the Addams Family, but I will say the animation improves somewhat for the other characters that aren't the Addams. This movie is so bad it only made it worse than the next entry by one line, being the reference to COVID in the movie. The Addams Family 2 also released at home to rent, as well as theaters. Nobody in this movie was a likable character except for maybe one character who's voiced by Wallace Shawn. I know I said in my review no character was likable, but I decided that he was a fine character after all. This movie contained the most predictable twist villain I've seen in an animated feature, and that really says something when you compare it to Disney's twist villains. I was very salty after watching Spirit Untamed, and I was thankful for its runtime. It was meant to be a spin-off of Stallion of the Cimarron, but to be honest, it didn't feel like it was. Prue and her father were the only characters I enjoyed in the movie, but I still think Abigail is one of the worst characters this year to come out of an animated film. The main character, Lucky, also isn't likable, and we are supposed to root for her. I predicted everything when watching the movie, and I was right about every guess. The animation looks like something I'd watch on Disney Junior or Nick Jr. The movie infuriated me, as almost every character was annoying, a jerk, or just incompetent overall. This movie would really only be enjoyed by small children, and just shouldn't be watched even ironically. Watch a better DreamWorks movie if you want something entertaining, because this isn't it. I've seen many opinions on Paramount's Rumble. However, I do know how much this movie was delayed and the development hell of the movie. It was set to release summer 2019, but that never happened. Then early 2021, but that never happened. Then May 2021, but that never happened. Then February 2022, but instead in December 2021, and it went to Paramount Plus and skipped theaters. I can say they made the right choice putting this at home instead of in theaters, because this movie really isn't good. It's a sports movie in animated form, but with monsters. Like the Addams Family 2, it has a predictable twist villain, but this one feels like it was shoehorned in there. I wasn't on the edge of my seat with this one, and overall felt bored most of the movie. It wasn't insulting like the last three I mentioned, but it was still pretty bad. This one's the biggest disappointment of the year for sure.
So you're wondering what it means to be an
Ah yes, Extinct. A Netflix movie that really didn't get a lot of attention. Another boring, unfunny movie for the most part. I will give it that it has a story that was a bit better than I expected, and I wasn't engaged or anything with it. And it does have some money moments. Funny moments here and there. I was bored though through most of it. The twist villain in this movie has a motive that somewhat makes sense, and it was one I didn't really see coming until the moment it happened, and everything sorta made sense. It still is a generic kids movie that's pretty harmless, but also isn't good either. Not much can be said about it other than what I've mentioned, as it is a pretty generic plot. Kinda like Rumble, I was very disappointed with this one. I barely even remember it. The trailer was pretty funny, but the movie itself wasn't that funny. It isn't anything special to me, and it was just not good. Just America the Motion Picture seems really forgettable to me, and that's really it.
Paw Patrol, Paw Patrol.
Yes, get your laughs now, go ahead, make fun of me, whatever. I am an adult with no children and watch this. It's a fine movie. It touches anxiety, which surprises me for a movie based on Paw Patrol. It's a safe kids movie that had some entertaining action, and a moment I did laugh during. It wasn't as dull as I expected this to be, and the animation is colorful. It gets surprisingly serious for a Paw Patrol movie. It's harmless, and I personally think any parent can sit down and enjoy this with their kids while having a good time. It takes some risks that it didn't have to, because, well, it's a Paw Patrol movie. It could have easily been a dull experience, and I'm glad it wasn't. Oh, this Netflix movie. It felt more like a pilot to the Netflix series. I haven't watched it yet, but the songs were catchy and the story is about an alligator named Arlo looking for his father. I had a decent experience with this, but there's one big problem. That is the fact that the songs in this movie could be played in any musical. This movie was still something I enjoyed watching, but on rewatch, I don't think this movie would be that great. The movie is something that's meant to be watched once, but the songs are good, like I said, and I have listened to them. The other problem I have is that some dialogue was predictable, and most of the characters were very underdeveloped, which... The characters being underdeveloped is probably my biggest issue with the movie. Those reasons are what brought the movie down for me, which is unfortunate, because I really like musicals a lot. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, aren't I? But I actually enjoyed watching the Boss Baby sequel. I thought it was better than the first movie. The first third was a bit of a pain to get through, as that was mostly annoying and tedious. Ted was a jerk through most of the movie, at least the first 2/3. It's a movie I liked more and more as it went on. It wasn't perfect, but it still was decent. The villain in the movie is obvious. He isn't a twist villain. However, there's a twist within him that caught me off guard. The action was entertaining for me, and it was a bit clever in parts. The first one was an okay movie, but this one was better for sure. The logic of the movie is a bit more consistent than it was with the first one, and I'm glad it was. There were genuinely funny moments like Ted saying he's going where navigation tells him to. Tim also has kids now, which are mostly fun characters. If you can get past the first third of the film, then go ahead and watch the rest of it. If you can't and you turn off the movie, this movie really isn't for you. While not perfect, it isn't as bad as everyone says it is. A movie about dangerous animals escaping from the zoo because of how they are treated. Back to the Outback is a chill movie and also a fun movie to watch on Netflix. Characters are nice, but a few of them are annoying. It isn't my favorite movie about animals, but it certainly isn't a bad movie either. I really didn't like the kid who's with his dad trying to hunt down the escaped animals, along with the koala whose name I don't remember. Not much else can be said, other than it's a good movie if you are looking for a movie with fun creatures. Now, I know many people have praised this movie for being one of the best animated features this year. Personally, I don't see the hype behind it. Not to say it's bad, because it isn't bad. It's pretty good if I'm being honest. The action doesn't drag, and no part of the story seems to drag. It still has the liar reveal cliche, but it's done in a more clever way, rather than the one we are all used to seeing. The two protagonists work very well and have excellent chemistry. However, the story fell somewhat flat to me in the third act, aside from the action scene, which was fun to watch. It just felt a bit stale is all. I do recommend checking this out if you want, but personally, I just don't see hype behind this movie. The experience is a fun ride, and I do like the pacing quite a bit. The movie did remind me of Aladdin, however, it isn't a rip-off by any means, and is actually a good story for what it is. Now, again, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but personally, I enjoyed the Loud House movie. It isn't perfect, and it still has flaws. I do feel for Lincoln's character throughout the movie, aside from a few moments where he acts self-centered, such as when he convinces the family to move to Scotland by, talking about the bathroom, since they only have one bathroom in the house if you've watched the show. The action-packed ending was entertaining, though, and I do like the songs of the movie. For a Loud House movie, it isn't what I was expecting, and I think it deserves a Netflix release. Do keep in mind, this was supposed to go to theaters. The movie's villain is a bit one-note, however. I did find her entertaining in some scenes, so she's not all bad. I do wish we got a different plot. Maybe that's more at the Loud House itself, but for what we got, it's decent enough to me. Don't at me.
Dearly beloved.
Coming out at the end of the year is Sing 2. I like this one about the same as the first one. It is kind of the same plot, however I do like some aspects they did better here than they did in the first one. This time our characters go to Las Vegas, Red Shore City, to perform a show. However, Buster Moon lies and says he knows about some famous singer, who hasn't heard one of his songs in 15 years. The movie has a few laughs, which is good. I did also like the villain in this one more. He was one of my favorite of the new characters. He is my favorite. The rest of the new characters, however, are hit or miss. The show in Red Shore City is a sci-fi musical that does end up succeeding, but under the expense of a lie. Some parts did drag a little too long, but there isn't a lot of filler, and it isn't like The Secret Life of Pets 2, where every plot is fighting for screen time. But I definitely think some parts could be cut. Also, the amount of pop songs and other songs they shoehorned into the movie was a bit jarring at times, but never infected my enjoyment too much, but still had little to no effect on the plot. I still feel like they needed to address one thing though. Whatever happened to Mike? Did the bears eat him or what? This came as a surprise this year. Yeah, I really enjoyed Shirobako the movie. The anime itself is about the creation of an anime. Basically, anime characters making an anime. If you enjoy the show, you'll enjoy the movie. The musical number was the best part for me. It takes place 5 years after the show ended, and it's about them looking for old files before the studio goes out of business or something. I forget how they described it. There's no active antagonist, and I think it works well without one. I still think K-On! Well, of course I think K-On! Is the best anime of all time. You all should know that. Most of you know how much I praise that. But anyway, Shirobako I think is worth checking out if you're interested in the creation behind an anime. If not, this anime isn't for you. But it's got a really chill opening. Yeah, the new Pokemon movie. Is it good? Yeah, it's awesome! It's entertaining in every way possible. The story is creative surrounding the tree. Ash is just as fun as he usually is. I like the new characters and the suspension was on point. Ash's companion in this movie is a boy who can communicate with Pokemon. I don't remember a time in the anime when humans can actually understand what Pokemon are saying, but hey, it's a fun adventure, and this is one movie you'll catch on Netflix. Yes, I love musicals, and Vivo was a great one. Lin-Manuel Miranda's music is always a treat. Running Out of Time was my favorite song of the movie, along with one more song. The music fits really well with the story. The story is about a monkey named Vivo who's owned by a guy named Andres. Andres dies and Vivo carries out his goal of delivering his song to Marta, who he wanted to see again. Vivo meets a girl named Gabriella, and the two embark on a journey to Miami to carry out the song. They encounter a few antagonists, such as a giant snake who hates the noise, but the songs are pretty great. It's a fun movie, I think many will enjoy. I wish it got more attention than it did. If only it didn't release the same day as Suicide Squad. Ah yes, Luca, the Pixar movie that went straight to Disney Plus and just came and went. Luca feels like a Studio Ghibli movie, and it certainly is a lot better than Earwig and the Witch. It's a nice slice of life story, in my honest opinion, with funny characters and a satisfying climax. It's not one of my favorite Pixar movies ever made, not even my top 10. However, I really like this movie a lot. But there is one scene in this movie that I really didn't like, and it's of course the scene where Luca sells Alberto out for being a monster. The villain in the movie was also intolerable and just annoying compared to most Pixar villains. This is one I had enough of pretty quickly. With these factors in mind, however, Luca is still enjoyable and a heartwarming movie families and kids will really like. See it for yourself and find out if Luca ends up being one of your favorites. I really enjoyed Raya a lot. The story was emotional and the comedy works. It was very interesting for a Disney movie, but personally, I think a TV series would work well with this movie. Raya was an excellent movie, and I went crazy for after watching it. But I like how they didn't use a dead parent trope in the same way we know how Disney does. It just seems like a rule now that every animated feature has to have dead parents, or at least a dead mom. Its message about trust works for me, but not completely. Raya is a really fun movie with fun characters I wish were more developed. Just a small nitpick from me personally, but it isn't a bad movie at all, and right in my top 5. This movie underperformed at the box office, sadly. Underperformed. My apologies. However, I find Ron's Gone Wrong to be the funniest animated feature of the year. I laughed a lot, and it's a great comedy. Sure, it is another story about a boy and his robot evolving their friendship, but there is much more to it. Ron is a defective robot from the other Bebots that our main character, Barney, wants. He wants a Bebot, but instead his father gets him Ron, who is different and is used for the intended purpose of the creator, Mark wanted. However, the villain, Andrew, wants to use the Bebots like addiction tools, by using them to post online and keep children online forever. It does have a third act breakup, but it's done in a way where it isn't forced. It does have some jokes that didn't work, but most of the comedy is really funny and entertaining. Give this movie a watch. and see if you'll love it as much as I do. Alright, now we're entering our top 3. And, yeah, I was definitely on that hype train as well. Hype train, sorry. What is with me today? Anyway, yeah, I was on that hype train as well when the Demon Slayer movie was coming to the United States. The movie is really awesome, entertaining, action-packed, and emotional. Throughout the movie, I was shaking in my seat at everything happening on screen. I was on the edge of my seat as well. It continues from the last episode of Season 1, and as of writing, Season 2 is currently airing. The visuals were outstanding on screen, and it delivered a spectacular performance along with it. I cried coming out of the theater for this one, and felt so much inside afterwards. So I recommend you all to watch Season 1, and then hop aboard the Mugen train. Yeah, I love this movie a lot, and it was clearly designed for theaters. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is easily one of my favorite animated features of Sony, and probably this decade so far. The family is fun, but I sometimes don't like Rick, who is the father of the main protagonist, Katie. Katie also does have her moments of immorality, but I really like the visuals and colorful action presented on screen for this movie. The comedy works as well, especially from the villain, Pal. Pal was rejected by her creator and then basically holds the human race hostage and wants to send them to space because of the new technology. She wants to take over the world with robots, but needs to capture the Mitchells because they are the last family on Earth for her plan to succeed, for robots to take over the world. This one is worth rewatching over and over again, and I think people will love it for generations. However, there is still one film that I praise higher than this. To no one's surprise, Encanto is the best animated movie of 2021. Encanto is a very original story that borrows other elements from other Disney movies, but for the most part is an original feature about a girl named Mirabelle, who is an outcast to her family. She is an outcast due to the fact she doesn't have powers like the rest of her family. The family uses their powers to help their community rather than fight evil. The songs are fabulous, especially Surface Pressure, and the songs are again by Lin-Manuel Miranda. In the end, an ability isn't what Mirabelle wants, but she wants acceptance from her family. Some characters I didn't like at the beginning, like Abuela and Isabella, but they grew over time as characters and became better characters as the movie went on. And towards the end, I guess I somewhat liked them. At least Isabella. I don't know about Abuela much, to be honest. Anyway, Luisa is my favorite character in this movie, as she is the most relatable for me. I cried during this movie because of how much I related to it, and I was blown away by the whole thing. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did, because I ended up loving this movie to death. I saw this film in theaters twice. It's on Disney Plus now, and I think everyone needs to see this fantastic movie, right now. Alright, that's 2021 for you. I'm sure many opinions are different from most this year. Just please remember, these are opinions, and I'm perfectly cool if yours differ from mine. Anyway, hope 2022 is going to be a great year for animation, and that'll be all. Bye everyone!